I'm now going to call the Wednesday, October 27th, 2021 meeting of the Norfolk County Commissioners into session. I'm going to call the roll. Commissioner Collins. Present. Commissioner Stady.
Present.
Commissioner Shea is present. We have a quorum. I'm going to ask everyone to rise and join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting is being held in person and remotely as well. And on Thursday, March 12, 2020, Governor Charles Baker issued an order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. That order was effective immediately until it is rescinded or the state of emergency is terminated. On Wednesday, June 16, 2021, by action of the legislature, the order was extended until April 1st, 2022. Thank you. This is a full meeting of the board, as I said at the outset.
You want me to read?
Item number 3 is a call for an executive session. Commissioner Collins.
Okay, item 3, executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, subsection A, subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation matters, and discuss strategy to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union and union personnel if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the government's bargaining or litigating position as declared by the commission chair. So I make that motion that we go into executive session.
I will second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. A roll call vote is necessary. I might add that at the end of the executive session, we'll be returning to complete the regular agenda of today's meeting. Ongoing into executive session, Commissioner Collins.
Yes.
Commissioner Stady.
Yes.
And the chairman votes yes. It's 3-0. We're going to go into executive session. And we'll have a 1-minute recess. Anyone who's not here for the executive session can go into the waiting room, please. And goodness. Thank you. We're now back in regular session on our Wednesday, October 27th, 2021 meeting of the Norfolk County Commissioners. We're on item number 4 on our agenda, minutes of the open meeting session of October 13. Motion to
Yeah,
accept the
Mr.
minutes.
Chairman, I'll move the approval of the meeting minutes for October 13.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote. Minutes meeting of October 20th for
Right, I
approval.
did review those. We got those and they look fine with me.
That's fine with me.
Right. I'll move approval of October 20th.
Motion made and seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote. Number 6, public comment. Director Cronin, do you know if you had any comment? Anybody
You do not.
express a public comment? Okay, no public comment today. Number 7,
Actually, I'm sorry, I do.
you
I
do?
just remembered. You may very well have before you, excuse me. Bid openings. Is it 1:30?
Yes.
Okay. Come on in.
Thank you.
I was contacted by a woman by the name of Carol Reed. She's associated with the Needham Board of Health. She works for them. She's also a resident of Medfield. She would like to schedule some time to come before the commissioners and discuss a multi-Norfolk County town initiative to deal with public health matters associated with addiction and substance abuse using ARPA funds. I asked her to put together a concept of what this discussion would look like, come before you, make a pitch for this grant opportunity in the coming weeks. So I just want to announce to you, her name is Carol Reed. Pleasure to talk to her. She's putting together some content, and I'll share it with you in the coming weeks when she brings
Okay,
it
can
forward
you schedule
for a
your,
public meeting. Yep, as soon as she's ready. we'll
What's the
bring it
thrust
for you.
of it again, John? Sorry.
So she's in the public health world. She
Okay,
works for
public health.
Needham, but she lives in Medfield and she wants to pull together a multi-town
Okay.
program to deal with substance abuse that's impacting folks in our county as a result of the pandemic. And respectfully ask for ARPA federal funds to bring forth this public program.
Right.
So details to follow. I just want to let you know
Yeah.
what her name was. Pleasure to talk to. So I apologize, Mr. Chairman. She came in
that's okay.
late last week.
Okay, now I got to apologize for these bids because I'm a few minutes late. However, if we have no objection, we're going to jump to number 11, which was a scheduled 1:30 bid opening, 2 bid openings today. One is, the first one is removal of concrete stairs and construction of new staircase at the Walk and Recreation Facility. Nancy Rockwell.
Yes, we have 3 bids. First one's from Folsham Corp. Incorporated. They've bid $100,000. Seems in order. I will thoroughly check them.
Alternate one.
Next, I have Needham Construction.
Nancy, how much is the alternate one?
No charge for alternate one.
No charge?
No. I have Needham Construction. $157,000, $500, alternate number 1 at $11,700. Third is from Unicorn Incorporated. They bid $145,000, alternate number 1 at $21,500. Those are the 3 bids we received for the
Okay,
staircases?
these are on the golf course, correct?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to take it under consideration?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
How long do you think it will be holding that under consideration?
Next
A
week.
week, 2 weeks?
A week or so.
A week or
Week or two.
Okay,
Next
great.
bid, please.
That is a roof replacement for Denham District Court. First bid we have is from La Rochelle Construction out of Chicopee, Mass.
Mike and
No, that was, we had for, the workshop house, 53 Old River Place was last week.
okay, I'm
So
sorry.
this is a different roof.
Okay. Get them caught.
That, yes. They've bid $200,000, $5,400, $205,400. Bid bond is included. I don't believe I see their DCAM certification.
The what you say?
Their DCAM certification,
Okay.
so it may be, they may not have included it, their bid. They had their bid last week inadvertently open because of labeling. So it may be in that, and I will check to see if that would be acceptable.
This is the update statement included.
What happened was, it's not here. They submitted last week, their bids were mislabeled
Okay,
and it was opened.
but their update statement's not in this bid package.
It's not here. I might have it from last time. I'm gonna check and see if that can be used. I'm not gonna,
Sure.
so I had told them to resubmit a bid. Next is Stanley Roofing Company.
What's the name of this one?
Stanley,
Stanley.
Stanley,
Scam.
Stanley, ST. Out of Ipswich, Mass. They bid $232,000. Bid bond is included. Update statements of eligibility is included. From Capeway Roofing out of Westport, Mass. They've bid $190,000. Unit price is $12 per square foot, rotted wood. Bid bond is included. Certificate of eligibility and update statement is also included. Corolla Contracting out of Winthrop, Mass. They have bid $250,000, $250,460. Unit price is rutted decking, $7.50 a square foot. Bid bond certificate of eligibility and DCAM statement is included. Titan Roofing out of Springfield, Mass. They bid $312,300. Unit price is rutted decking as found, $30 per square foot. Bid bond, certificate of eligibility, and DCAM update statement is included. Reliable Roofing and Sheet Metal out of Norwood, Mass.
Okay, huh? Let's go. Good.
They bid $265,800. Unit prices, while the decking is found, $15 per square foot. The bid bond, certificate of eligibility, and DCAM update statement is included. Let's have MDM Engineering out of Dudley, Mass. They bid $222,000. Unit prices, rutted decking is found, $10 per square foot. Their bid bond, certificate of eligibility, and update statement is included. Last, I have Greenwood Industries out of Worcester, Mass. They bid $321,000. Unit prices, rutted decking is found, $15 per square foot. Bid bond, certificate of eligibility, and update statement is included. That is the last of the bids for this.
This is on the roof replacement Dedham District Court.
Yeah, I'll thoroughly go through everyone afterwards, and I do have a question to call into Boston for on one of them.
That's a total of 8, huh?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to take this under consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Before I vote on this, Nance, this is, is there a guesstimate of how long, I mean, we're getting into the winter here, I'm sure this is an issue.
This will really, in all reality, more or less start in spring. As far as I know, what I've been told is the materials needed or at least a 15-week out to get.
So this is a spring job.
Right, but by awarding the contract now, we
You put it in.
can pulse the work to ensure that the product to get the job done.
Okay, I understand.
Oh, yeah.
We're trying to hedge.
I happened to see the judge today about roofs and gutters, and
Yeah,
it was a happenstance meeting. Timely.
The gutters piece, along with, as Nancy said, the blue house roof, those were open last week.
yes.
So both of these projects have been previously approved for the advice.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sure.
were you, I'm just curious, are any of the vendors here in the audience today?
They're all there.
Yes.
Could you identify yourself? We've never seen this before. I haven't. Who are you, sir?
MGM, sir.
Jim.
Are you all roofers or are we the first one too?
General contractor, Unicon.
Okay.
Unicorn. And who are you, sir?
Reliable roofing sheet metal?
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, welcome.
Reliable roofing, is that Norwood?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, thanks for
All right.
coming.
Okay.
Very
you.
anxious.
Thank
All
you.
right.
We haven't had people show up like this
Thank you.
before.
And not
That's great.
well,
That's
sometimes, but
great.
not usually. Thank you.
All right, good luck, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's go back. I'm sorry. I believe we're on number 9, and then we can move right along.
Well, 7 or 8 or,
Get to
yeah,
the treasurer.
9?
Not 7, appointments, none.
Okay.
Old business, John.
No business.
Oh, okay, now we're on number 9.
Yeah.
The personnel matters for consideration, Commissioner Steve.
Right, so, maintenance we're holding, right? We're holding on the maintenance for now, right? Deferring my maintenance?
Correct. We're holding.
Right.
Okay, so I've got for consideration, Mr. Chairman, I'd move the following, notice of resignation of Ronald Driscoll of Walpole, Mass. As the principal at the Aggie School, effective 10/8/21.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I want to wish him our best in the future and,
Yeah, well, we all work with Ronnie.
yeah,
He's a good guy.
yeah, hoping.
Yeah.
Brennan, notice of appointment, I'll move the appointment of John Wallace of Needham as the new business manager of the Aggie School at the rate stated effective November 1.
Second.
I have a comment prior. We're hopeful I'll work with John. We interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. I think it's a good choice. You'll notice he's coming to work next Monday, which was a part of what our feeling. We're ready to go, and Rick is going to stay hopefully
That'd be good.
8 or 10 weeks
For the
here to the end of the
transition.
year to help him out. Motion made second on John Wallace as our new business manager of Norfolk Aggie. He will not be utilizing the housing. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, aye.
And the last one I have is the notice of contingent employment of Luke Burns of Plainville, long-term substitute instructor at the rate stated effective 11/4/21. So moved.
Motion made second, all in favor? Aye. We're going to hold the facilities position for today. Number 10, payroll and expense warrants.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll move the following for adoption. 22-17 payroll county, the amount of $137,990.70. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Second,
Yes,
Mr.
vote.
Chairman, 10-4/22, the expense of the county, I'll move the sum of $542,200.64. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote.
Third, Mr. Chairman, I'll move item 22-3, debt and interest in the sum of $1,004,277.78. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
It is a vote.
Last one, Mr. Chairman, for the Wallaston Recreational Facility sales tax of $1025.21, the sum of $3,429.77. So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Next, we did the bid openings
Right.
and done, number 11. Number 12, we're not awarding any contracts today. We have none.
Right.
Number 13, discussion of Abraham's group recommendation for Norfolk County treasurers. We have Treasurer Bellotti and Assistant Treasurer Doria here with us. In your packet, I believe, is some responses to, some draft responses to issues expressed in the Abraham's report relative to Treasurer's Office. The board has adopted a policy. You people are first. Isn't that good? To be first before us in this
Yeah, first
program.
Get out of the way.
Discussing, so we're setting the rules as we go along. Today is our first day, and welcome. This product, the Dow report started a year ago, September. Went through the bid. We went most of the year. It took a little longer than we thought, but the baby has arrived. Now it's a case of going through it and putting other sets of eyes. So we appreciate any response, and we're open to any and all comments on the record. And then this is not the end at all of the process, but it's a learning for all of us. And we would say that hopefully, if changes are made, they'll be made in the fiscal 23 budget if they're monetary, or if they're policy. We'll probably find a date to implement all of that too in the future, but probably it's going to take us most of the rest of this year, 2 more months to go through all the departments and to make some decisions at budget time in January. That's all I can tell you right now. Treasurer, any
Well,
comments?
first of all, thank you very much for this tool. As kind of a newly elected, as you are, Dick, to the county in this position, we see this as an opportunity to kind of take a fresh look at things. Of course, Joe has over 30 years of experience and is going to have some institutional knowledge that I don't have, and will have some perspective that I don't have. But the time is perfect. I just want to thank you folks for understanding. Hopefully this is like an evolving discussion, and that this is in the beginning and the end, hopefully, because not that we're negotiating with you folks as commissioners, but we just want to keep creating a better product, and it's just not going to happen today. And then as I do a deeper dig or get more granular with this stuff, more detail, and work with Joe, I think it's going to be an example of bringing the AIMS as a great tool. And, there's going to be some pushback, obviously, from all parties. Because of perspective, consultants don't always come in a matter of months and have all the answers. But they certainly give you a chance to, question past practices and go forward. So I look at it as a complete positive. It's a tool and a learning moment for me. Maybe not so much for Joe, but for me it is. So, yeah, so.
Thank you.
So I don't know what you want to get accomplished in this particular instance, but we're open to any suggestions. You want to go through details? You want to talk broadly about it? We've got some responses, but we're not, we're very open-minded. This is the beginning of discussion and see what we can agree on immediately, and then continue to go forward in resolving some of this issue.
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes,
for you, just
absolutely.
a suggestion, just to save us time. We don't really need to rehash your report because we were given it to read. And I'm sure we all read it a couple of times. We already had the Abraham report. What I'd love to do is pick off some questions when the time comes.
Any way you want to do it.
I don't know, but I appreciate Treasurer Bellatti's statement. I do. I think that sets the tone that I hope everyone in the county will say in terms of this tool being a tool. When I read your response, I thought, boy, there's an awful lot of pushback here. And it's like when I remember when being a teacher, you'd criticize the term paper, and people were like, "Why'd you mark that up?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm trying to make you better.
Right.
You did a good job.
Yep.
But you could we can disagree on a few things, but it's going to make it a better product." So overall, I liked your comments. I read them. I don't want to go first unless Peter has something to say, but I had a couple of specific questions based on the report and what I thought was missing here. So that's where I wanted to start.
Go ahead.
Is that all right? All right. Well,
Any
that's
place where
fine.
you
Let me jump in then. So one of the things, and I think it's well written, okay, both were written. I appreciate the fact that county finance is not like municipal finance. That's clear, right? And it looked like the makers of the product maybe had to get a little bit more in tune of that, which was quietly taken care of by you. I understand that. I had 3 things. One is, has there been any thought of maybe, or could you give some thought to changing the payroll system from weekly to biweekly? My point is, in some towns and some entities, they do that, and it's a cost savings. So I know that county employees get paid every week, but the school employees get paid biweekly.
Right.
And that was, payroll was one of the targets they had.
So I'll speak generally, I'm going to
Yeah.
specifically. I would say, and initially it's probably a collaborative effort. It's not just the treasurer making a decision. So we're open, Joe,
Definitely.
to anything
Mhm.
because we don't make decisions like that in a silo. But I'll ask Joe to speak specifically what those challenges might look like. But I would assume, based on my past lives, that if that's something that the county wants to do, it's doable. But
So I want to couple that with their report about getting rid of checks, move away from checks to electronic. So that was, again, we're trying to move the county into the next century.
Right.
And they're trying to say, here's where we should go. And there was a little pushback. And all of my remarks, I said with great respect. All right?
Exactly.
There's no untoward feelings here. I'm just saying, why can't we do that? Why are we looking?
Over the years, we have considered that.
Mhm.
It never really goes anywhere because we're concerned if we have to like negotiate with the unions on that too, to change them from weekly to bi-weekly.
Yeah.
It's doable. I mean, it's definitely if it's,
have they expressed a position on that, or is it more just the?
just downstairs, we've talked about it, like,
So yeah.
It's
it's
got to
just,
be a collective buy, but is there an advantage in, I'm saying, is there an advantage in cost and time saving in doing bi-weekly rather than weekly? I think there is, but I'm just looking for.
I mean,
ways
there is
to
some
help widen it.
savings because now you're not doing payroll every week.
Yeah,
So it gives the staff time to do other chores
yeah,
as needed. And most of our payroll people are on direct deposit.
Mhm.
We have very few checks, so there's no real savings for checks there.
Okay.
For check comments was more on the accounts payable side.
yeah.
But it's definitely doable. It's just a matter of,
So would we put
We're going
together
logistics.
a small committee? I mean, who technically reach out to the union on this? Would it be maybe?
I believe it's a
John Thorne?
bargainable item. I can't imagine it's not in this day and age.
Right, and they might
Maybe we
want it.
should try it. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't use the payroll service, right?
no, it's in-house.
Like ADP or any of these others, right?
But you could ask John Corner to put together a subcommittee, which is, or he could take the lead in determining first with the unions, and any way you want to set it up.
And I would think they'd want it. If anything, they'd be the ones saying, proposing this because the checks are going to go out on time. They're going to get it instantaneously. They don't have to wait for the check to come. They don't have to go cash it. They don't have to do anything. Boom, it's in their account.
Yeah,
So for the most part, it's not, but it'd be just bi-weekly.
This is probably,
right.
So who do you want to make the point? You can make it us, me, or John Cronin to begin those discussions with the union.
John's behind you nodding his head, so.
I believe many of the collective bargaining agreements are coming up for renewal by the end of the fiscal year.
Right,
So I'll be happy to take this matter to the table with those
Yeah.
affected agreements to
Right.
see how far
Right.
we can go and report back.
John, do we know if it's in the CBA right now?
I'm not familiar with
Okay.
CBA's, Mike.
I would assume it's collective bargaining, and I thought I would raise the point just to put it out there in terms of first, what are your thoughts? If you feel it's not reasonable or not
No, we want to explore.
manageable, but if something, again, something new,
We want to assess and explore and make a decision with you folks.
yeah,
I mean, we're just, our role is somewhat limited on this. So we're open to any suggestion. So, it may or may not be, sometimes these things end up in contracts, sometimes they don't get that detail, but that's something we'll have to figure out. If it's not in a contract, then it's just a matter of maybe a different type of discussion.
It could be construed as a change in workplace conditions.
so maybe,
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, we
That's a good
maybe, if you want, the board could flag it for negotiations, and then
We will
we
flag.
can discuss
Okay.
I
that.
think it's worth it.
Okay,
And I don't want to, it's a treasurer function, obviously.
right, and that's why I wanted to ask you first.
Right.
What's the sense of us negotiating if you said, look, Dick, we don't want to do this?
Well, we can do that quick assess. We're here to serve you.
No, thank you. I had a question. The second one I had was, I'm hazy on this, maybe because I didn't have enough coffee, but the grant activity, I can't wrap my head around that. I was trying to really
So I'll just go
read that.
general,
It was a
then,
tough one.
sure.
and
So,
I want,
sometimes it's a matter of
the
submitting.
Aggie gets money and then they put it here and then we get money and it goes there and I lost me on that. Can you
Let
go
me
over
take
that?
a shot. So it's actually, all our grants go into one account. And then it's an internal accounting kind of procedure or methodology we use. So from our perspective, they are separate. But from the Abrams Group, they don't like that, but that's going to internal. So Joe, why don't you explain
Sure.
so that I don't get it wrong?
This is a comment, first of all, the Abrams Group had said this had repeated for 4 years, but our current auditors, who were our prior auditors had, their comment regarding grants was something else. It was due to, regarding a bank account. It's this last firm, Scapini and Pina,
Right.
who had said that all the grant activity was going through the general fund. And when we had our exit meeting that year for the audit, I questioned that and said, can you show me where that's happening? Because it wasn't really true. What happens is all state money gets wired into one bank account. It's a general fund account. So yes, the cash goes into the general fund, but immediately the revenue gets deposited. It gets recorded under the grant, not in the general fund. The revenue goes to the grant. When we pay grant bills, the expense comes out of the grant, but the cash is general fund. So all we're doing at the end of each month is doing a transfer between the grants and the general fund to move money, but the actual grants are recorded properly.
Okay.
So if we have two separate grants and we're paying out, is it under the same
It gets,
bank number?
it's under the
Account
same
number.
bank. Everything that gets paid out gets paid out
But
under
under
our
the same
expense account.
specific account number,
No, it'd be under
two separate accounts.
two separate expense
Yeah.
accounts,
Yeah.
yes.
Right. John Cronin had his hand up. John.
Through you, Mr. Commissioner, just a question, Joe. I generally understand what you're talking about, and I can see where Scapini had an opinion. But we don't have a ton of grants, but we do happen to have a very large one right now.
Right.
Has the county, in your experience, had a federal grant audit during your term?
Not a federal grant audit, just a single audit that the independent auditors are required to do if we have over 100,000.
So if I could make a recommendation, and trust me, I'm not second guessing you, I'm as much thinking about fortifying your recommendation, given the size of the ARPA grant. Treasurer Bellotti also, it may be worth affirming this approach with the federal government with respect to holding the ARPA money. All the other grants are nice and big, but this big grant is going to be audited, and we're at the very beginning out of it. And if you believe that the way the county is handling the receipt of the money, putting it into the general fund and booking the expenses to the grant is proper, I think it would be advisable to get that in writing from the federal federal government, that they affirm that.
Yeah.
So if you follow me.
Sure, I do.
Just a
But
recommendation.
the ARPA money came in, actually, we set up that separate account for the ARPA, which was not in the general fund.
Okay,
So that money went right into the ARPA fund. It didn't go through the general fund.
so that's
Right.
being treated.
That's outside the
differently.
general fund.
Right, yep.
Okay.
So it's being treated
Right.
differently than other federal grants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which may be an issue.
Okay.
So what we'll do is, I think John's right. It's better to ask for this case for permission and forgiveness, which is always the case.
Yeah.
Because if we can foresee any potential audit issues down the road a few years, at least we can memorialize it that we did reach out to them if we do that, Joe.
Exactly.
Okay.
Treasurer Bellotti, to that point, it's more affirmation, and I think a quick, efficient path could be, if Joe wants to craft an email, I can send it to Mintz Levin, who is our attorney on the ARPA grant, and ask them to shed an opinion.
Okay, great.
That sounds good. Mr. Chairman, that would be a good idea.
Yes.
So Joe, that's your
Yeah.
to-do list.
Okay. Third one I had, with your permission, Mr. Chairman, had to do with just a little pushback on some of their recommendations. If you did certain things, you get a gold star, you get a little better rating, but you brought a good point. No one in life has the costs involved, but
Right.
could you quantify that? I mean, is it worth it for us to do those extra things? If you're saying no, basically, I get your answer on a couple of those. You're
Yep.
saying,
I mean,
You disagree.
personally, I don't believe so. And gold star, that was a quote from what Mark said
right,
regarding a budgetary
right.
thing too, that the commissioners could get their budget certified
I
also.
got it. Yeah.
But I spoke with our auditors, and our auditors said none of their clients, so none of their municipalities that they have get the annual comprehensive annual report through the federal government, just because it doesn't really get them anything. It's not going to get you a better bond rating. It's your financial audit, statements are fine.
Mm.
So their opinion was that we don't really need it. So that's why I made that comment. And it's very tough to get certified. As I mentioned in the statement, is that they had one client at one point actually wanted to do that. And it got rejected because the heading wasn't in the right format. It had nothing to do with the numbers. So it's a lot of work for basically just getting a certificate to hang on the wall.
Right.
Yeah.
So as treasurer, we're going to follow up with David's group on some of these more pointed issues. And just assess, I'd like to hear from them. I mean, I spoke to them several times before this, but now that it's written,
Yeah.
between Joe and I, we're gonna get online and kind of just go back and forth, because there
That's what's
there
hoping.
might be something that gives you guys greater comfort,
Okay,
even if it's just optics.
right.
It's a standard you want met.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so we will look at that.
All right, that's what I figured. That's
Yeah.
good. I mean, this is first response, like Mr.
Right.
Chairman said. This is our first time doing it. We're working our way through it. So I read with interest what you say,
Right.
but now I'd like to see what now they say in
Exactly.
response to that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. It's a work in progress.
Right.
All right, last one I have.
And if I may,
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Last one.
this is like devil's advocate. It wasn't like we don't want to do this, we're not going
Right,
to do
and
it.
I-
It's just, this is
No, and,
why we think we should do
right.
something
And
else.
Treasurer Bellotti set the
Right.
tone.
It begins a
Very pleased with
discussion.
what you said. That was very good.
Yeah, everything's still on the table.
Yeah, it's good. It's
We're
good. I
not digging
appreciate
in.
that. The cash flow issue that was brought to our attention by the report and by your comment, and their suggestion about floating a bond or doing something else. Can you again just clarify that for me?
Sure.
Educate me a little bit better on that.
I mean, this year was a little different because we had $5 million at the end of the year, but
right.
usually we only have $1 million,
Yeah.
million and a half.
Yes.
So we have no revenue coming in July, basically.
Mhm.
So what happens is in July, we're still paying bills every week and paying payroll every week. So the general fund runs negative during those months. So, but what we do is because all our other funds have money, we're able to like continue to pay our bills in order by using the money from those other accounts until the revenues start coming in August,
So you rob Peter to feed Paul
exactly.
in the
Right.
tougher day.
Right.
This year we didn't have to. Now, I noticed with interest, the registrar put out something about receipts are down for the first time and the market might be slowing down. And who knows? Again, it's all speculation. But if we ran into that problem, God forbid, you're comfortable doing what you said?
Right.
Rather than borrowing a rand note?
I'm operating
RAN
a
note?
revenue anticipation note.
Okay.
Yeah, which we have done in the past and we
Okay.
would do if we needed to, but
Yeah.
over the years, over the last
Yeah.
10,
So,
15
I mean, I
years.
guess there's a couple way to do it. I mean, I remember at the sheriff's office, Peter, sometimes you guys would actually float a bond for us, right? We'd come down,
You would do whatever you needed.
you wouldn't, right? I miss those days. But because the state would pay so late at times, especially sub budgets,
Right.
so that's basically similar, right, to it?
Exactly.
Or so they even suggest maybe finding it in other existing funds
Yeah.
Right.
where you can do it basically into
Right.
fund transfer.
So they want us to basically record, make transfers and actually document that flow,
Right.
which is not an issue,
Okay,
But those are two approaches.
okay.
And the reason why we don't
So float a
Four of
bond.
us sometimes,
or borrow.
sometimes just to save money
Yeah,
on interest. Right, Joe?
Right, yeah.
Is a reason not to do.
yeah.
But if you pay it off that quickly, that might be, a little bit more than a nominal amount. Yeah.
And we do it in reverse also because during the year, the school, usually into December, they don't get most of their tuition in
Right.
December.
Right.
So they'll run negative and we're using money from the county to help them
Right.
too.
Okay.
Overall, you felt it was helpful? Though?
Yeah, I think,
The report.
I think it's a starting point.
Yeah.
And
fine.
look, we're here to work with you guys, and you're the ones that, in your wisdom, decide to, which I commend, look at everything in county government. So I think it's beginning of a discussion of things we can do quick, there are things that we can keep discussing, hopefully, and I think we'll get there.
I have no further questions. I yield to my colleagues.
Commissioner Collins.
Yeah, sure, thanks. Thank you for coming in, really appreciate it. It's been great working with you for all the time that I've been here.
Thank you.
And Mike, you've been great too. I know you're new, but you've been awesome for the short amount of time you've been here, so thank you.
Give it time. Still honeymoon.
It is,
Yeah.
really. So I like what you said right at the very beginning. This is a tool that we can all use to work with to try to figure out what works and figure out what doesn't work and to figure out if it doesn't exactly work, how we can try to make it work maybe even a little bit better than it is right now. So I guess the big trick would be if you guys as a team could maybe talk to our director and figure out, okay, these things we agree with. These things we don't agree with, and these are things maybe we can work on. And so if you could kind of prioritize, all those three different categories, that would be really helpful. And if you guys could work with our director, I think it's going to work out fine.
Okay, great. That's exactly what we're thinking. Let's knock out the ones that are somewhat straightforward. discuss the middle of the road ones, and then maybe just, we'll talk about ones that we really think we need to get to after those two categories.
Yeah, you had some you really were like mildly opposed to, but others you were like pretty pointed. And again, all with respect. But I was like, well, that's, what's the follow-up? So I agree. Meet with John and then get back to them.
And it's pretty clear that some of the recommendations that you were given from the Abrams group, it might not apply.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and so, and we're not saying that you're wrong. We're saying, great, thank you for telling us, because we didn't know that.
Exactly.
And now we know more.
Right.
And it's their job to, give us a snapshot. You know, an example, the salaries. That's one of the first ones. We within the 128 belt, because there's only two other counties it compares to, Bristol and Plymouth. So that might, be part of the equation. And I'll look at that more closely to see what that actually means compared to those. But there might be other entities in terms of towns that we could look at too, to either justify or discuss what that means in the long run. Obviously we don't want to cut anyone's pay, but it's a discussion about, through attrition and, how to handle those issues long term. We'll look at it.
I think you're spot on, because when I looked at that, I thought of the same thing. I said, okay, wait a minute, we're a little bit closer to Boston. The pay might be a little bit higher in this area, because if we want to attract good candidates, we have to pay more because we're
Right.
competing with Boston.
And I'm not going to say something that sounds gratuitous, but I guess I will. I've been here, a few months. And I've been in a few different organizations. I've just never seen so much like talent in the professionalism in here, and also retirement side of the system. Everybody's just doing their job every day, and there's absolutely very little distraction other than how they approach the work. And they all appear to be qualified, competent, experienced. Beginning with Joe.
Norfolk County's always been well run. Let's keep it that way, Make it a little better.
Yeah. So
Make it a little better.
Great, so if you guys, it goes back to you, Joe, but I'd end it, so long as you guys stay in communication with John, we'll figure it out.
Well, I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation, but my first involvement in all of this was prompted by, I'll be honest with you, and I'm not at all a financial person. I always would, and I'm a journalist and a person who's done a lot of things, but I always tell people, I'm not the budget guy. I don't want to be. I want to be associated with people that know how to do it. I've been driven crazy by some of the management comments and that they keep repeating. I can't get it entirely through my head, or I can't get my arms around it. And reading your comments, I understand that the numbers look different because they get repeated, etc. But the core ones, I think, are at the forefront of being addressed in my mind. And if they don't need to be addressed or they can't be worked out, because I also have been around government long enough to know. In the beginning, you're learning, and in the middle, but then, you're part of the problem, not the solution. If you didn't address it either, etc. I'm not a salary guy. I want our people to be probably a little higher than everyone else. It doesn't bother me unless it's completely wacky. I mean, that's the baby in the bathwater argument. We can all talk
Right.
about that, you know what I mean? I'm sure there's people in this county that do things that aren't done in other counties and vice, you're losing when you're talking that, but I suppose these people that do these studies, they cast a wide net.
yeah.
And I'm willing to cut the stuff out that, isn't worth talking about. However, I'd like to get to the core issue about the management of money. I don't think there's any other issue in the treasurer's office. And I don't know that it's a treasurer's issue, but it ends up being one because in the end, we're back to an old accounting firm that we used. So we probably had 3 outside accounting firms in 10 years or more.
Basically two. Yeah. The current firm and then
Right.
Scapini.
And I know we're required to file that, and I know the treasurer's reached out a little on his own and someone to look at it too. That to me is a big part of it.
I appreciate that. but-
I'm not gonna talk about the color or the paint on the wall or anything like that, or very little about individuals. Certainly in the department, it's only got, do you have 5 employees yet? I don't know, maybe.
Including us, yes, it's just
Yeah.
5.
But another thing too is,
And I really mean that, and
when you're looking at the salary too, Joe, The longer you're there, the more you're gonna make. And that just shows that we've had
That's right.
people that have been there a good long time and they know what they're doing.
And they're talented, and we, that's just, it takes off so much pressure in terms of management, and everything else, knowing that they're self-started and know the work. Yeah, so the other piece, and I appreciate the advisory board and you folks allowing me a $10,000 stipend to look at some legal issues, just to see what my relationship is with Reginald O'Donnell, because he has some accounts, and some other accounts that other folks are.
In there.
Yeah, and we'll look at the past audits. We'll have a good discussion. We've having discussions with different folks around the county, including Bill O'Donnell. And, sometimes the law is clear, sometimes it's not clear, and we'll just continue to work together and make sure those checks and balances are there.
And just because we've done it in the past doesn't mean that we can't. do
That's
better.
correct.
And I think we're all on the same page.
And some things in the past don't need to be touched either, but, other sets of eyes don't, I mean, I'm sure this is going to be by some people attacked, but it's going to be very hard to attack the whole thing because there's always there's always things to be gleaned from everything. And again, I don't want to throw it out the window.
Good news is you're sticking around for a while, huh? That was nice. That was nice to read.
What?
He's not going out the door. I guess they assume maybe he was leaving soon.
Well, that's another
He
thing.
wrote it and you go,
Since you
"No,
are so small and Joe is such a key spot, did I read somewhere in writing, you didn't give your notice or anything, is that why?
I don't know how it came up, but he said he tends to
Did I see
be here for a
Travis?
while.
Just an inference.
I believe in succession planning a little bit. It's
Oh, yeah.
not in elected officials.
Yeah.
They want to take care of that. But number two, people, definitely going to become an issue in the maintenance department. I mean, last year we had, we got the same old return on a lot of these managers that have worked extra, and then you throw COVID on it. You're one, they're due time, they're not due time, they're salary time. I saw your very concise memo about this money people are owed. Out of that discussion last year, we've had 3 of our top managers send us a letter, said we're going to be gone in July of 22.
Right.
Well, I'm sitting here saying, oh my God, I'm the chairman of the board, and the top 3 people in one of your biggest departments that say, well, what about succession planning here? These aren't elected officials, these are career employees. That's got to be looked at, and maybe,
Yeah,
maybe it should be looked at in this department too, because I don't know how old you are, Joe. I know you're 30 years here, but that's your business. You may be 50, But what would happen if Joe left tomorrow?
well, good luck tomorrow.
And us.
Big trouble.
That's my whole point.
We're
That's
big
my whole
trouble.
point. I can say it in front of you, but
But no, we've had discussions about this, but again, it's still, it's definitely a freedom of choice issue.
Yeah.
He can leave tomorrow if he wants 2 weeks notice, but in essence,
do you bring a person along?
I think you have to,
When the
unless you
small-
find that perfect fit from another county or somebody
Yeah.
from a municipality that understands the differences quick. But it would be a little bit scary. He knows where other bodies are, and but we have these ongoing discussions, and he's here for at least 2 to 6 years. That's how I look at it. I don't know how much,
Well, I think that's a consideration for certainly every department.
but I'd like to have a year's notice, but I don't want to have him, decide one day it's just time to go and think he has to stay a year. But the intent is to have a year's notice.
I told you I can't go until my wife says I can anyway. But look, I mean, I got hit by a car and I was back to work in like 6
I know
weeks
that.
because I'm like, it was year end.
At the time, believe me, a lot of people mentioned it to me. I get a call with John and Joe get hit by a car this morning. I said, oh, wonderful. It's not a joke, but it's exactly what happened.
So
Chairman Shea has a great point, and no one, I'm sure, is looking to push out the door, but maybe
No.
it was opening chairman's comments. This is going to be also used by us in preparing our budget, right? So I'm not saying next year, but something to think about. Perhaps in a year or so, start looking at someone who could be working with you and learning that.
and it's always in the back of my head.
Not now, but maybe, but.
Getting balls, it's always in the back of my head.
Yeah.
But it's a function of when he gives me that,
Yeah.
hopefully that year's notice.
Right.
But no gun to the head.
And when our junior accountant left, she wrote like a manual and was able, which is like the Bible. So, I'd probably start doing something like that too, over the next year or two.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
When you say junior accountant, you mean,
Carolyn Sarah, when she
I
retired.
remember the name. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And how long did she have? She didn't have a lot of years.
No,
She had
she was 15 years maybe.
Good job, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Thanks, Commissioner.
If you would, so everything goes through Joe, obviously.
Yes.
And if Joe were sitting there, what would we do?
There'd be another Joe.
Hmm?
There'd be another Joe there. We just can't identify him yet.
Well, maybe if we're wrapping everything up in next year's budget, now's the time to attack it, and then you bring someone along. It's
No,
your,
he's staying 6 more years. What are you saying?
He's not leaving right away.
You're killing me.
That's what I said. He's not
You're
leaving.
killing me.
no, I don't want to kill the budget.
You're picking up his option, right? You're picking it up.
Oh,
What?
You're picking up his
Picking
option.
up his option, yeah.
that's what he said. He said he's staying. So,
No, come on, what are you gonna start?
All right, this doesn't preclude any other questions, but I think this is a start. I mean, we can,
No, this is a great start. I appreciate
I
it.
appreciate you putting so much
You guys are
writing
doing.
too.
it's a start.
It was a nice job.
Yeah.
Good job. Appreciated reading your comments. They're frank, honest,
Yep.
right to the point. It's great. No, it's
Until you get out of a 30-year employee,
good.
he doesn't care. He's gonna tell the truth.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
last
Thank
call
you.
for the treasurer.
Thank you.
They're far
Follow up,
away.
yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we excuse?
Thank you.
All right, don't go away. We're up at number 14 on our agenda, folks.
Okay.
We will.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
See you
guys.
Okay, we'll
Good
talk to you
seeing you.
guys soon. Thanks, John.
Talk to you soon. Michael, talk to you soon.
Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Dick.
Good
So
job.
every time we come here, he gets more work.
Commissioners, 14 and 15 are very similar.
Yeah,
I've got a Mass dot drain easement and taking notification and plans for certification for Norfolk County Commissioners.
right.
And I had to back up. We sent it, Director Cronin sent it to the county engineer's office. I see a memo here from Patrick.
Patrick wants us to read a sign an attestation
Read it.
sheet.
Hmm?
He wants us to review and sign the sheet
I
for
think we,
notification 1 and
I
2.
think we review, we review it and then we have a motion to have the chairman sign.
Yeah,
Correct.
right.
That's
So
what I'm gonna
see if
call
I
on
can,
Johnny.
could I just make the motion right off this,
Just make the
right?
motions. Let's go.
Yeah, right up there.
It's right here. It tells you.
Tells you. Oh, is that?
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
To the extent the commissioners are interested, Mr. Higgins is on the call.
Oh,
Any
okay.
questions regarding materials for you?
Patrick, hello. Hello.
is it there?
He's there.
Hello, Commissioners.
Okay, we're not sure we're gonna ask you a question, but are we going all right? We need the motion written, which you've prepared for us here, the cert, says I hereby certify up for the rip and the dated, and then we sign it, correct? Or I sign it?
You sign it, yes. It's just a confirmation of receipt by the Commissioners that we're
Okay, so
we filed
everything's
the
in line.
plans.
And so the towns want us to do this, right, Patrick?
The state has already they've already discontinued and already taken the drain easement, and they've already altered the right of way. This is just a formality of recording with the county commissioners as required by law, and that we duly record it and file it in your records, and that you return the receipt to the state.
Okay, Dick, you want to make the motion?
Sure. Let's give it a shot, and if I need to be
Go ahead.
corrected, Patrick,
Commissioner
let me
Stady,
know.
thank you.
All right, no problem, Mr. Chairman. I would move that the copy of the plan bearing thereon a certificate dated October 6th, 2021, attesting that the Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division has taken an easement for drainage purposes and abandoned in this section of the state highway in accordance with the plan shown as identified as in the county of Norfolk, city of Franklin. The layout was the order of taking an abandonment be adopted by the board this day. And we authorize the chairman to sign it.
Motion made and
Second,
seconded.
yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
I am gonna sign it, and I did. That's the first one. Are there
And
two?
the second one,
Yes.
I would move, Mr. Chairman, that in the county of Norfolk, city of Franklin, layout 8838, I would move that the copy of the plan bearing thereon a certificate dated October 6, 2021,
These are-
attesting that the Mass Department of Transportation Highway Division has altered the location of the state highway shown on said plan and has laid out and taken charge of the state highway as altered and shown on said plan. I was so moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. That the following plan, as previously stated, has been on this day filed with the Office of County Commissioner, signed by the chairman. All in favor?
Aye.
Done. Free acting, Peter. Okay, thank you. Moving right along.
Amazing.
Number
Patrick, is that okay?
14.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Patrick. Number 16, report on the Opera American Rescue Plan of 2021. Director Cronin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This afternoon, I'd like to inform you some good news. The portal was activated on October 18th. The county has been very active over the last week, ensuring that communities across Norfolk County receive their credentials to log in. I'm happy to report that as of today, approximately 20 communities have been compliant. They have received their credentials. We've been working with several of them to make sure they get in and they understand the navigation. There were a couple of technological hiccups and some of them, thank you, Michelle. Some of them had some issues associated with their own firewall. But I want to give high praise to Clifton Larson, who's been great. I mean, to handle some of the technical assistance. And there's only been about 3 calls, so not a ton, but they've been right on it. We actively get communities coming into us requesting this credential access. They have to give us information, as you know. I added 3 more to the list today. So we only have 8 more communities. We'll be reaching out to them by the end of the week to remind them to come in and send their information in. Before we came in this afternoon to this meeting, Mr. Chairman, I did check the portal to see if there were any applications that have been submitted. There are none yet. But I do believe there is a certain community on the eastern side of the county, it begins with M, that might be very close to being the first one in. So we're going to keep close eye. I'll be happy to announce which community it is, but it'll be kind of a high watermark moment. I also wanted to announce, if you have read the news, the state has begun activity associated with its share of ARPA. It's a $5 billion appropriation. I've had some communications with the Plymouth County Treasurer regarding the future use of that money and whether or not Norfolk County itself as a governmental body could expect any funds from that if we were to apply. There's little or no chance we would get money because we've received our own tranche. We've got the 137. But we will be monitoring any activity within the county that may emerge as a result of certain state reps or state senators who may get earmarking because it could free up money that they would have otherwise used from our funds. So it's something that bears watching. There's a tremendous amount of money out there and interest in the program, but as the state gears up and moves to finalize their approach to their program, we'll keep an eye on it. But overall, the program's going quite well. Tremendous support from CLA, and I will alert you as soon as I get the first application.
Excellent.
I have a quick question.
Sure, Commissioner.
So
Collins.
I know a bunch of towns have already filled out the information, so you have the contact information, you're ready to go. How many towns haven't responded yet? Or
8.
8? And which of those towns?
Okay. Again, we'll be reaching out to them. Canton, Cohasset, Medfield, Millis, Needham, Plainville, Sharon, and Westwood.
What was the last one?
Westwood.
Okay.
The Canton you met with, we had a meeting with Canton.
We did. So the burden is on the community to send to us their certifier and creator, as well as their bank account number and their routing number and all that.
Okay.
So
follow up on
it's, yeah, sure. I mean, they're going to get pinged anyway. So
Okay.
there's no immediate rush. We just want to make sure that everybody has their access.
Okay.
They can start looking at the portal and using it for what it's worth.
Who's coming?
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on opera?
Not at this time.
Okay, next is COVID update if necessary.
So the only thing I wanted to draw to your attention, commissioners, is the fact that many other public officials and public organizations are facing right now in the Commonwealth. We observe that there are certain organizations that are mandating vaccines for employees. I have recently viewed the Norfolk County COVID numbers. They're relatively stable. They're very low, in fact. But yet I understand this is a public policy and a public health matter. And as I've told you, I intend to try to keep this item on your agenda for focus to see if anything changes from week to week that you feel compelled needs action. I'm not recommending anything today, but I am observing what's going on around us, and that's my report.
Okay. Number 18, why do you have personnel form on here?
That is erroneous.
That is good. Number 19, report of the county director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Two items. One of the items I wanted to alert you on is that each of you should have received a copy of a schedule for the departments that are scheduled to come before you over the next 8 weeks associated with the McMahon Group. It should have been in your packet. If you didn't get it, we'll send it to you separately.
I didn't get that.
Okay, that's fine. If it didn't reach the agenda, that's okay. It's simply showing which department will be coming in over the next several weeks. Next week, we're scheduled to see data processing and the information technology director.
Because that read my mind. I was going to ask you who was next week. That outlines the whole thing.
Yes, it does.
Perfect, great.
Yep, it
Thank you.
does.
Perfect.
In fact, Commissioner Stady, not to you, but you and I have a strong relationship with the monthly calendar. I want to get you one for November because the Finance Committee also has added some scheduled meetings, and I'll plot that in there with this too, because you see it all.
Thank you.
To that point, the Finance Committee is meeting tomorrow at 2:00, just FYI, publicly posted meeting. We have received good news, a packet from the engineer associated with the Stoughton District Court rooftop units. It is now in possession of our facility maintenance director and the electrician. They're reviewing it. There were some questions that the engineer just wanted clarified, not heavy lifts, but I've notified Nancy that I want to move as quickly as possible to put this product out on the street and get it bid. We do have a waiver from the state to move more efficiently, and we intend to take full advantage of that waiver. I was notified today by the vendor who was working on this project that the 2 rooftop units have been delivered to the Stoughton District Court property. So notwithstanding whoever gets the bid, the product will be there along with some instructions and information that were associated with the project. So that's favorable. This morning, as you know, I sent, if you didn't get a chance to look at it, I was trying to keep you informed individually on the status of our district courts during the storm. I also simultaneously alerted the trial courts because they were monitoring the services activities of the spaces. Mr. O'Brien informed me that he wants to meet with me next month in Stoughton District Court. So I'd like to have some favorable news to report when I see him in mid-November regarding that particular project. One item that I would like to take a few minutes and go over, and if I could, Mr. Chairman, through you, distribute this to each of you. The Abraham's report, under section 5.1 of its financial policies, recommended that the county produce a 5-year capital plan and it be revealed by October 31st each year. I've taken the liberty to present to you this afternoon this proposed plan. In addition, I've added some information associated with the ARPA grant. I found it to be helpful when we speak about the county projects. This would be the county funded projects through ARPA. If we were to co-locate them in with our capital planning, they are of the same type of project. And as you review this report, it's 3 pages long. There's a couple things I want to draw your attention to. First of all, much of this content was developed by the Abrahams Group during its assessment of wants and needs, wish list, if you will, of all the departments. Over the last week to 2, I've been in contact with each of the departments associated with this report to find out what's changed. What do you feel is emerging as a priority, and what's slipping? What I propose in the column that is shaded yellow is what I would eventually recommend to be the FY23 capital plan for Norfolk County. Recall that back in September, this board and the advisory board approved a $1 million appropriation for the capital items. So this report foots to that total. I have moved some of the projects around to reflect, obviously, the current priorities. I used the call-out boxes just to draw your eye towards several of the items that I just wanted to attend to this afternoon. If you'd allow me to, I'd like to start with ARPA. So currently, as you know, we are sitting on approximately $685,000 total county funds, of which we have half right now. And I'm projecting currently that the county would look at spending around $220,000 before the end of June 2022, and then another $200,000 in FY23 of that 685. I'm targeting 2 projects in FY22 and 1 in FY23. These projects, I'm currently vetting them with Clifton Larson for eligibility. One of the concerns is that you can see both of them have to do with gas boiler upgrades and replacements in two facilities. Both of these are very old units. I believe they're over 50 years old. I had a conversation with John McGowan today to find out how the replacement units, whatever is spec'd by IBS, has an effect on air quality. That's the trigger. We have to find a path between the eligibility of the program and air quality. In the event that there is no such nexus or I'm unable to make that connection, I'll reassign these projects as we get closer, of course, with your feedback on how you wish to choose to expend those funds. I'm simply recommending those projects for consideration as a something to think on. We're not moving forward at this time with a full application. But I will use this grid to help us navigate these projects, because if you want to read, I believe there's over 100 lines of content here. There are a lot of different ways you can spend ARPA money, but more importantly, you can see where the priorities rest within the county. It's a great resource. In addition, I've removed the $1.593 million item for the irrigation system at the Wollaston Golf Course. Previously, I've mentioned to you, I really envisioned using funds gained from the liquidation of the Quincy District Court when that happens to offset this cost. It's a large item. I've spoken to Carl a couple of times. It's preferential and cheaper to do it all at once rather than in chunks. So I think that's a very viable financial alternative for that particularly large item. That's why it's not in this list. Further down, I just note on page 2, the schools, I had multiple conversations with Rick. Yesterday, he shared with me their plans, and they're represented here. They're ecstatic to use these capital funds in large part to fund $165,000 in technology upgrades. The total value of the school's involvement in our capital plan is approximately $400,000, or 40% of the funds, which I think is a scalable relationship between our availability of capital money and the school's involvement in it. So technology is a big chunk, as well as a couple of vehicles, skid steer and scissor lift. We're also looking at a pavement investment. Some of the commissioners may recall that the schools invested in a plan several years ago. I believe it was a total $600,000 in paving, and they were going to tranche it over 3 years. They're stepping back and reevaluating that because of foot traffic and the way that the school community uses the pathways. So for us, FY23, they're going to modify their need temporarily to just $25,000, but we'll keep a close eye on it. So you can see by the time we get to FY25, we're looking at another $185,000 to get back into that space. If you go further down on that page and you look out again at FY24, there are 2 items on this plan that stood out dramatically. One was for $2 million and one was $3 million. One was the building replacement of the cafeteria for $2 million. The other one is the school plant science building exterior work. These projects exceed the capacity that we typically can expect to have in any given year for capital expenditures. While they are capital projects, the scope of them are too large. In early November, I'm hoping to get on the school trustees agenda, November 10th. In fact, John Martin's working on that right now. One of the things that I've mentioned to your commission, to this board before, is the need to have a conversation about the school's overall bonded debt burden and what it's doing to their operating budget. We'll get to that in a separate meeting and a separate discussion. I mention it though because I don't believe the schools are well positioned today to take on any additional debt for these 2 projects. So by FY24, they will be staring back at us saying, well, what is the plan for these particular projects? I will put out there the potential again that the Quincy District Court liquidation could offer financial relief for these projects. But there are a lot of other options that would be available if additional revenues were put forth by the schools to support the debt. So I'm just flagging these for something to keep an eye on. I don't want to drop it off the plan because they're important. I think it's important also that all stakeholders understand what's in front of us. This is a substantial amount, and it really does tilt towards unaffordable under a typical capital pack.
Well, a project like that, you're going to have to look at priorities too. What's more urgent? What's essential? That's a lot of money. That's $5 million.
Correct. And the other thing, Commissioner, and this is on me. I've been here 5 months, but not even 4 months. I don't know if the schools have, they quite likely do a strategic plan for how their facility build outs and renovations such as this fit into the larger plan. That would be beneficial to know. Quite likely this is where these originated. But any such plan should have attached to it a solution to fund it. So I'd like to learn more about it. So down the road, it's just simply a placeholder, and I wanted to call out because I'm not dropping it. The last item, just an FYI, the registry alerted me that they, at this time, have nothing to report regarding capital needs. It's premature in their opinion. Maybe I'll hear from them later in the fiscal year, but at this time, they had nothing to report for financial needs. So overall, the plan does foot to the $1 million. You'll see in the blue at the bottom, I just summed up what our commitment would be if we go with those projects in ARPA. This is simply a proposed budget plan. That's all this is. I would like you folks to take it under consideration because certainly as we trend towards December and then turn the corner into 2022, this plan may evolve and change, and I will bring it back as needed so that by the beginning of fiscal year 23, we can take an affirmative vote to approve these against the already approved funding. But I wanted to abide by the guidelines of the Abrams report and bring it forward to you at this time.
Question. Two questions. We'll start with the easy one. I see under Dedham District Court, we're talking about a generator.
Yes, sir.
It's very timely today because they're without lights. I spoke to Justice Pomeroy's, actually I was talking to him this morning. Registry has a generator and Superior Court has a generator and they're working, thank God. Can we promise them a generator at this early stage, or we have to wait till we vote this? No. Because he's asking me questions and timely about in general, and I brought the generator up. But, my second question, I don't, and I'm not looking for it. Well, I don't know what to say about Quincy. I know Quincy's in flux.
Mhm.
Is anything that we do in Quincy going to come under a capital program, or is it kind of a as we go approach, because there will be no Quincy court in the future as we understand it? Who knows how long that's going to take?
Okay, so taking the
In other words, we wouldn't be putting a generator in Quincy District Court
right.
because it's going to be torn down.
Correct. So on the first item, Commissioner Shea, the generator for the Dedham District Court is planned for FY23. The way it could come sooner is if there's any play or give in the FY22 approved plan. At this time, I don't see enough wiggle room to announce that I have $100,000 lying around, but we'll certainly keep an eye on
Okay,
that.
okay.
The next
That's fair enough. I think even the promise of it, I mean,
right. The next milestone associated with this will be sometime in, I believe it's early December, when I expect the next quarterly report on the progress against our spending. The largest components of the FY22 capital plan, you heard today, it's the Dedham District Court roof, the gutters, and the blue house. I think in total, it's about $250,000 out of our $1 million-ish capital budget. Those are likely to go forward. So if we do see any give on other projects that yield this kind of savings, the next thing I need to find out is, can I, if it is a generator you wish to put into FY22, can I get a generator before the end of the calendar year? We're all running into supply stream issues.
Right.
It's not a well-kept secret. We have to bake in, as you saw today with our planning for the roof, the expected turnaround time for the products that will make up, in that case, a roof, but in this case, a generator. We haven't purchased a generator in a while, so I couldn't begin to tell you if we ordered it today, Joel, if we'd have it by June 30th. It's one of the things that is, and actually, I think I can make an analogy that you're familiar with. The Stoughton District Court rooftop units took several months, and that was one of the major delays in the front end of that project because it was a supply stream issue. So we'll keep an eye on the availability of funds. If the funds do surface, we'll attempt to find out, can the project be completed before the end of June? That's the test. Because if not, it'll be planned for FY23.
Okay.
Regarding
Well, even to have it on writing and have this spreadsheet in front of us is a step in the right direction. We may call you and hold you to some of this, but that's a good thing.
Regarding Quincy, I
Just the
don't,
golf course, they do a great job there with the golf component. The grass is everyone's happy. I'm not a golfer, but the environs are getting
Right.
Skeet.
You know, before I respond to the Quincy District Court item, good point, Commissioner. If I could ask you to go to page 3, which was the Walston, actually, I think it's sorry, page 1. Page 1. We listed some proposed projects for the golf course, Commissioner Shea. I did speak to Carl. These are their wish list items. They don't have quotes. The maintenance roof does require a new roof. That's a total estimate. You could see today what a roof looks like on a 100-year-old district court. I don't know the size of the maintenance roof at Walston. It's a good sized bay. It could be more than 50, but we'll find out. The 75,000. This is a complete wild ass. Excuse my French. That slipped out. I should have said swag. I apologize. We're looking for a new restroom on the golf course. It's been a long time ask. They're researching this right now to find out its viability. They need water and they need structural space to build it. Porta-johns are not an option, according to Carl, because they need to get onto the course to pump and service the porta-johns. But those are 2 items that are on the wish list. They'll keep an eye on it.
Okay.
Paving, huge issue over at the Wallaston Golf Course. I do think we can easily spend $200,000 paving the lower lot as you enter the property, and perhaps we'll see how the funding moves, a portion or all of the upper lot. So that's an issue that we'll get more information on over the coming months. And then finally, as you'll know, the recommendation from the Abrahams Group is to move $80,000 a year from capital back into the golf course for miscellaneous grounds improvements. So they're getting the second largest chunk as a department.
They're getting some
Beyond.
I know they are, but it's overdue, and I did get a
Yeah.
promise from the mayor
It's coming.
that they're digging up the entranceway because they're putting a new sewer pipe in, and he's gonna do the whole new sidewalk, and it's contingent upon some of the stuff that we're gonna do, because he's unhappy with the entrance. However, he said that he would put a whole new street in all the way from East Quantum into the gate.
That'd be great.
And if we could tie some of this pavement work and other stuff in at the same time. So that means we get new sidewalks and a new street and the signage, all of which is a little behind, but
Well, look great.
As a sidebar to improvements, Nancy has contacted, we're first looking at architects or firms that can help us design the play area that's already approved at 100,000, just to get a general idea of what scope of cost we might be looking at. We've pivoted away from that to suppliers of recreational equipment for children's playgrounds. They have the tools and means to give us imagery and costs, and I believe she's setting at least one meeting up with a vendor who's on state contract. So we're working towards that solution too, to beautify the course. That's already funded at 100. So if it costs more, given the scope, we'll come back, but we're working towards that as well. On Quincy, Commissioner Shea, I do not plan any capital money going into the courthouse at this time.
okay.
I have been asked to consider a lighting improvement that would cost approximately $150,000 to upgrade to LED lighting. The quote came through Nancy and John McGowan to me, and I had a conversation with the courts this morning because the trial court's facility director and I are trying to collaborate on where do we find that sweet spot of investment for the Quincy District Court facility to keep it safe, number one, and occupied. We want to make sure the inhabitants have a safe, clean place to work. We do not envision putting a $400,000 roof on the place. We do not envision putting in drop ceilings. We certainly do not envision all new windows and so forth. The infrastructure itself is at end of life. So what we're trying to do is to find where our costs will be most beneficial to the occupancy and safe occupancy of the building for the next 2 to 3 years. We concluded that the investment of the lights, which the vendor claimed would have an ROI of 2 years, was likely not a good investment. So we're going to hold that item. If we were to do that, Commissioner Shea, I'd probably look for some kind of a supplemental appropriation, and then we get the funds back from the state in 18 months. So at this time, I'm not going forward with it. But
Okay.
just to let you know, because I think it's a good point, when it comes to end-of-life building, we need the collaboration of all the parties to make sure when we make a decision, they buy into it. And I think that's the link that has been missing for several years. The trial courts are now at the table, as well as the justice. So we're all talking, and I think it's productive at this time. So we'll keep meeting and talking about that facility and others as time goes on. That is my report. Thank you, sir.
One last thing on the courthouses too, and this has happened in the past. I know that we put the money out and we get the money back in a year and a half. That's the way it usually goes.
Yes.
Sometimes they really want something done, and sometimes we don't really have the money, and sometimes they'll pay for it.
Mhm.
Right up front.
Mhm.
And so if there's something that they really need, you might want to explain to them, we don't have the liquid to do that, but we'll do whatever they want, but they're gonna have to front the bill.
Mhm.
As opposed to us paying it and not having it and getting the money back in a year and a half.
Agreed.
But they have done it in the past. It's not something that we're making up now. They've done it in the past.
Good to know. Okay, they have not offered that to date, but I will definitely keep that in the pocket for any further discussions with them. Yeah.
Okay,
Two quick questions, real
Sure.
quick. Good job, Director. Are you going to be sharing this with the FinCom this week, or is it too soon for this? Is this for our eyes only?
No, I think I'll share it with them. It's a proposed product. They're interested in seeing how things are trending.
Yeah.
didn't we call to have it done by November 1st too?
October 31st, it was to
Yeah.
be delivered, and we've accomplished that.
Okay.
I don't,
Okay, so I'm just asking this.
I think it's a good idea, Commissioner Stady, to inform them. I won't ask for a vote from them on it,
Okay, yeah,
because at this time, there's nothing. I'd like to keep it kind of draft until
Yep.
we get a little closer to maybe the beginning of the fiscal year, calendar year.
works for me. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right,
Thank you. Under number 20, emergency items, do we have anything else at all?
The only thing I would remark is, as I mentioned, we're keeping an eye on the energy status at each of the courthouses that were closed today because of the storm. I had every expectation that they would be online within a day. If anything changes, I'll alert you individually, and the trial courts as well.
We think,
well, we should mention our facilities people and maintenance people for the work they did. I know John was around different courts trying to help out and getting up and running. So
That's a great
good job.
point, Commissioner Stady. I did check today there. We had staff in the courtrooms, in the courthouses that were without power, doing their job.
Yeah.
They're there to make sure the facility is safe, so thank you for doing that.
Thank
Good
you.
point.
We voted on a new appointment for the business at the Aggie School. And I think this is a great opportunity too, in light of some of the comments that were made earlier with our treasurer's report, where perhaps he can work even closer with our new director in terms of looking at some of those things. Hopefully he'll be working a little closer.
well, I think it's a
you know.
big plus that he's coming to work next week.
Yeah,
Some of these things take months and months and they
Yeah.
get very, I think that came out of the interview process. That was a good thing.
yeah.
I think it made him, more salable. So
All
we're
right.
anxious to get him. John will be, did you say when the meeting on the 10th, before the 10th?
Hoping to, yes. That's for pre-meeting to the November.
I'm sure it'd be very prevalent at the 10th. At our regularly scheduled meeting.
Incidentally, Trustee Little has offered a virtual meeting solution on the 10th to allow our Hilltop Securities Advisor and her team to join us. So,
That's good.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn at
So moved at 3:02?
3:02 sounds?
Yes, sir.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We have a regular meeting next week. First
Thank you.
meeting. of-
Be safe, everybody. Do I need to sign anything here? Or am I, those all set? You're holding in the blue.